So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Martin. I'm from Pajajaran University. So basically today I will serve as the moderator for this today discussion, today's seminar. And then for today's seminar, we have two speakers. One from Andalas University in Padang, West Sumatra, and then the other one is from Pajajaran University in Bandung, West Java. So from Andalas University, the speaker will be Mr. Elfindri. He will talk about informal sector for women in Indonesia, while the second speaker, Mr. Yusuf, will talk about the long-run evolution of inequality in Indonesia from 1990 up to 2012. So, well, I start with Pak Elfindri dulu, and then we move to Pak Arief. Pak Elfindri, please.
Okay, thank you, Martin, ladies and gentlemen. I think it is great pleasure for me, actually with Jahan, because our original papers were written both me and Jahan. The basic idea is informal jobs in Indonesian women. We can distribute this if everybody needs my papers. So we will intend to submit to yes this year, and still under correction of Chris Manning actually. I think the original idea of informal sector for women is under my master thesis during 1989. I'm supervised by Pak Chris, and then this quite long, and then for the last couple of years this issue is coming back to my mind, but it's difficult for me to express because we have limited at the time, the original limited in terms of data and so on. Actually today I think we are going to discuss various steps of the importance why we choose informal sector for women in Indonesia, and how is the employment growth looks like, and to what extent the importance of women, particularly non-wage sectors, as a part of issue in the labor market too. And we extend our analysis by looking any models. The basic model is looking the occupational choice of women in informal sectors because of some of the interesting idea here. And then the second one is our objective, of course, in looking or testing how is the what we call it household employment characteristics, particularly for married women, whether there are entering labor market is partly as a substitute or complements according to their husband occupational status. After looking at any models in Indonesia, we're using Susenas, and we are separating our analysis into 3 provinces, West Sumatra and Riau, and then we look our discussion and the implication, what is the implication behind our analysis. I think as we all know, Indonesia currently decline in terms of number of children. Of course, the fertility is quite related with the availability of time for women, whether there are more intensive child-caring activities or their market wage improve, the market wage improve because of declining of fertility. So at the same time, I think from the last decade, besides the declining fertility, women having more educated implicitly, according to theory, saying that more educated having more price of the market time actually. But why the issue of employment itself is more dominantly in terms of formal wages? I think the formal wages are more sexy. I mean, a lot of strife, a lot of argument, a lot of media or people looking such idea. But indeed, in out of formal system, like non-wage sectors, actually employment is importantly available, and there is no or almost limited discussion about what happened with them, who are responsible, how government assists, and so on. So, from my basic understandings, looking the informal sectors, particularly for women, is more, I think, much more important rather than just we are saying only for understanding how the increasing minimum or how providing a better formal job system. So that's why this type of analysis is, I think, it is time for us to think and to look what happened under the data which are available for us. Secondly, women in informal jobs are relatively out of the policy dialogue, like the improvement of self-employed, the improvement of unpaid family workers. They are indeed very important, but there is a limited understanding how to improve the existing now, how to, what is the roles of government and so on, what is the dynamic within household or within regionals. I think this is another question. Increasing in terms of quality as well as greater contribution, of course, of women for the household income itself. From my understanding, and we are trying to move to looking the data. I think in the paper we have looking the macro data first. From 1980 to 2010, consistently we use that as a census, and looking the growth, absolute growth of both in each periods, and looking total and women. What is the important things here? Actually, wage sector is improved significantly. Wage sector occupation, both for total and women, is improved significantly, which means that the labor market is correlated with the improvement in the economies. It is indeed very good, but the rest of them, if we look at non-wage sectors, is also improved. The growth of women actually is quite not only in the wage sector but also in the non-wage sectors. So after we are separating various non-wage sector, which means that the sector women who are working as a self-employed, self-assisted by someone else, or unpaid family workers. The three things is dominantly as a place where women enter in. When we are trying to look in more detail the growth of the employment, this is a new thing for me, is where the self-employment status among the informal sectors, the growth of women is absolutely still increased, much better compared with the total self-employment growth. This is making our question why this can be occurred, why the self-employment is important, and we need to investigate. That is the first one. In some, the growth of self-employed women are much important rather than the rest. The second one is what we are already looking. Even though the growth of the employment for non-formal job for women but the growth of informal, particularly for unpaid family worker, is almost limited. I think a lot of discussion during 1980 to 1990 literatures, particularly by Pak Chris or even Gavin John, looking the terminus, a lot of women entering the job, but only for unpaid family. But what is the implication here? Which means that the growth is limited. I mean the growth of unpaid family worker is, I think, is already finished. It is difficult. This is still hiding answer why this is still occur. Maybe the dominantly occur formal job in trade sectors and whatever, in small holding, whatever. This is still difficult to answer. So this is the relationship in this case, the limited number of unpaid family worker women after the 1990s. And another important issue is if the growth of additional employment, whether it's formal or non-formal, occurs, to what sectors? And from the last figures which we are trying to take from the tabel 1 in our papers, show that self-employed and family workers adding as an importance in serving an additional labors. From macro perspective, we are trying to improve our understanding by looking any, say for example, some issues in literature, like whether labor for women is following segmentation or evidentially because of relative occupational choice and mobility, which is a lot of variation in that issues. Secondly, looking which one is more dominant, whether this is supply factors or another factors will contribute. But I'm stressing again our objective, of course, by looking what supply factors contribute more and how the effect of husband occupation, because this is what we call as a cross effect of husband occupational status on women entering on non-formal jobs. By looking any data, we are trying to match Susunas into household data, and looking any simple things, simple equation where we put them probability of women having an informal job first. Second one is probability of women who has become self-employed, and then one husband is explanatory variables, which is looking in the copy of the my models. And this is our second objective, looking any coefficient that come from husband. So we are, Jahan and me, interesting to look the various variables looking the husband characteristic. Firstly, if the husband are currently underutilized or seeking the job, what is their effect on the woman itself, whether it's substitute or complement. Substitute would mean that if the coefficient of negative, which means that women are substitute at the time because of their husband is absent to work or working under the utilization. Secondly is husband occupational industrial structure like agriculture, industry, services, trading, and so on. Looking in what sectors is contribute to improve, whether it's substitute or complement because of joint works, and then that is our further exercise after looking the market data. And interestingly, in supply factors, I think if you are having the tables, the model we are extracting into 3 tables. Actually, there are 6 tables, but the only 3 tables we are trying to put in this presentation, and almost all of the data showing that the supply factors able to say that women entering informal sector because of the limited number of what we call human capital, more they are tended to lower educated, which means that there are pressures. They are having lower number of demographic pressures as well because of lower number of children. They are tending to out of home-based activities, so they are entering into markets. So that is the first our finding with the geographical location of women who live in like urban, in pesisir, in offshore, in like nelayan also are more likely and enter the job actually. But more importantly, when husbands are underutilized or unemployed, why underutilized or unemployed? We combine both of the definition into one variables and looking any association with the probability of women entering the job. I think the data which is looking here, you can see in where is the elasticity? I think the final data, the final tables here, and under the model can be shown what is the effect of husband characteristics on the probability of women entering the non-formal jobs. The negative signs and significantly is showing us that women entering because of the substitute under the household labor supply models. Another important issue is if we look at women husbands who are working as agricultures and trading sectors, this is the result of the coefficient is positive, which means that actually because of combination of work can be work together, or so, which means that women are the position as the complement in these households. So that is our new findings in terms of the models. So I think here, women when husband works as agricultures and trade sectors might be relatively joint works, which can be shown by our coefficient. But when we separate the model, the Indonesian model, into 3 provinces, the rationale why East Java much more densely, West Sumatra is a medium one, and Riau, Kepulauan is island, archipelago. And the model, when we separate, actually our result of the study showing that and West Sumatra and West East Java is consistently, the model showing us which one contribute to improve the probability of women entering as informal and as self-employed. And interestingly, the woman in Kepulauan Riau doesn't. It is difficult to explain because the model is actually different with the model which are we testing for West Sumatra and East Java. So that is our empirical research of the study and then the discussion. And I think from my final presentation, of course, because of the issue of informal sectors, particularly for women, I think it is time for me, particularly and Jahan, maybe some of us here, in looking any more detail about we need to extend our analysis because it is rare articles or research on this aspect. But as we are known, women in non-formal job is significant because almost 60% of job availability. there, rather than formal job only around 40%. Because of the importance, I think, although we are not looking into detail about the skills, but pretending because of women who are less educated enter the job, non-formal job, they are limited skills, they are limited education. If we are turned back into the policy previously, I think almost no policy for that, almost no what we call it improvement of skills, regulation as well, regulation which favor women to enter the informal job occupation. Secondly, I think we need to improve our understanding about how to enlarge, how to improve the quality of women opportunities to improve into labor market. I think the two implications we need to discuss in the draft. I hope that the draft is useful, and that's it. My understanding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Elfindri. So before we continue to Arief's presentation, I would like to open question and answer. So please, if some of you have a question, remark, comments, critics, or anything. Well, okay. So if no, I will try to stimulate the discussion then by asking Pak Elfindri. Well, Pak Elfindri, in your presentation, one of the objectives of your paper is try to find whether the effect of husband occupation on women's decision to enter the labor market or not. And then again, in your slide, you also mentioned that if alpha is less than 0 or if alpha is negative, then you come up with the conclusion that it will be a substitute, meaning that if husband is underutilization, the woman, the lady will come up and then take the, become the supporting of the family. However, in the logistic regulation, I do not see any negative. The value of the coefficient, none of them are negative. So I don't know. Is it something wrong then, or?
I think this is the final one.
For the
look at like in the final tables, between coefficient of non-formal sector in
Okay.
3 provinces, yeah. So showing that like under, under this under, which means that the definition of under is when the husband working below than 15 hours per week and or seeking a job, and the coefficient is negative for West Sumatra and East Java consistently, but not negligible. I mean, although the positive for Kepulauan Riau, but it's statistically is not significant. And however, when we look at into the agriculture households and trade household, which is the positive has like the coefficient is 0.132 and red has positive 0.167, and as well the similar behavior in East Java too, which means that this is positive. When the husband working in agriculture and trade, women also helping the husband actually. So, which implicitly this is strongly indication of the complementary each others. Except for the surface, which is still significant in 5% for West Sumatra, but not significant for East Java. So this is the separation of the model. I think, do you have the data, Jahan? I think our data showing that when husband, this is I think we are tending to choose this three.
Okay, so the other two tables are what?
This is odd ratio. I think the first is logistic, and the second one is
Logistical.
yeah. This is we are not estimate with logistic. The final we estimate with the
Yeah.
ya koefisiennya deh.
Exactly. That's the point.
Yeah, so it is less than.
Dia less than one.
So it means
Jadi
relationship.
so you can look at this
Okay.
quite much.
Questions, please, Lydia.
I'm interested in the choices of areas for the study. Why was Sumatra, Pulau Riau, and East Java? And also I see here some specific results for urban areas and pesisir coastal areas. Is there some significance in choosing specifically coastal areas in terms of why separate out the coastal areas? What is the background? Yeah.
I think it is a chance for us to use this to turn us into various argumentation. I think firstly, why East Java is we are not explicitly explained in the papers, but firstly, East Java is the areas who are already longer terms in terms of fertility decline. West Sumatra is just another is East Java number of more industry available there, where West Sumatra is quite agriculture, and the rest of them is actually as a comparison as a province which is characterized by what we call archipelago. You know, it is limited our understanding when the type of household living in archipelago, whether their what we call it, their behaviors on time allocation and whatever, and indeed as a result is difficult to explain. Why is the model and from the Kepulauan itself is extremely different with the model with what will result in West Sumatra and East Java. West Sumatra and East Java actually doesn't have any difference in the both model, but there are consistency following the national results. But in terms of Kepulauan, for example, women entering in Kepulauan doesn't rely on their education, whether they are low educated or not. This is quite important because in the economic theory says that when women having more educated, the price of time much higher. But indeed, according to our study, in terms of the behaviors is still negligible. It is difficult to conclude. It is maybe condition of where employment in Kepulauan doesn't compete with the childcare activities, maybe. So women is easily entering the labor market or again quit from labor market, maybe as a result. But it still need to be investigated. And I think that is only our rationale behind. I think we need to improve also our understanding about Western and Eastern and Java. This is also another type of our understanding, which is a potential to look what happened in say more densely populated like Javanese, like maybe in areas where inequality is higher, whether women are being involved to support. I don't know. That is only our understanding. I don't know, Jahan, if you have some idea.
Another question? We still have room, please.
Yeah.
And please state your
Yeah.
name.
I'm Bruce. May I ask, I just have a clarifying questions on how you define informal, because in Susanas, if you only choose the self-employed and the unpaid family workers, which is unsafe in terms of economic stability and things like that, then in your conclusion, I don't think you actually want to increase the likelihood of women entering those types of employment. But it really depends on what you actually choose in Susanas when you define informal. So
Yeah, it is actually based on whether a woman working as a paid wage system. In the Susanas, I think status of employment is divided into self. Self is out of the wage system. Assist by someone else. Third is unpaid, and the rest of them, there are actually I think from the year 2000 and 2010 there are new kind of identification like pekerja bebas. It is might be banci in terms of sometimes they are having receiving money and sometimes maybe not. We are not using the data. But for employee and employer, actually there are under the formal system there are engaged as the formal workers because of they are received wage under the working. That's my understanding in terms of dividing them into the status.
So you're not counting self-employment being assisted by non-paid and paid workers?
For informal, we try to combine self-employed, self-assist by somebody else, and unpaid.
Okay.
That is, we do not want as the informals and others no. And when the self-employed, we just select only a woman who are as a self-employed. So as a self-employed, which is I think under the definition they are not getting salaries for self-employed. I think I take into account. I think we need to discuss with my friend Susanas whether do you think that it is when women having wages, it might be recorded as a self-employed in this case? Which my understanding might be.
There's a difference between salary and wage. So if you are employed, then you're getting salary. But if you have your income from other means of other sources, then you might get wage. So it's more than just whether you get wage or not, in my opinion.
Okay. So we try to more clarification for that one. That is the point, I think.
Well, because in Sakernas, I think that the definition can be more specific. But in Susanas, you're given only limited choices on how you can define formal and formal. But yet, if you choose those three options, then I think you still want to increase the likelihood of women entering the sector, because it's actually an indicator that you're not having a secure income.
Yeah, not secure
Yeah.
income. More secure income, of course, in wage system.
Yeah.
The relation with development and wage sectors should be positive.
Any other question? Yes, please.
Okay. My name is Niwa. So, knowing the importance of increasing the likelihood for the woman to be part of the informal sector, and realizing that we have, like many parts of the country, Indonesia still dealing with, let's say, disparity or gap of education between men and women, and also the pressure that you just stated in your paper, right? And then how do you think one of the implications you stated here to accommodate the women, and what kind of, let's say, policy or socioeconomic model that you can propose out of this?
Yeah, this is, for me itself, although 20 years ago I'm trying to look the variation of women in labor market, and then it is, I don't know, it is a rare research on this case. In one sense, women as a self-employed or unpaid family is important because their contribution to the total labors or household labors. But in the other case, it is, say for example, when we look from our exercise, from our model, looking at the only lower educated women entering labor market, which means that they're having less skills. Implicitly, we need to make them more secure. We need to make them greater choice, rather than allowing labor market without any skills, without any good quality, and so on. So if we are looking, for example, I don't know, in the big city like Jakarta, I think there is a significant reduction of women in informal sectors because of the formalization of allowing trading sectors everywhere, Indomart and something like that. It is influence of the probability of women. So in this case, we need having a regulation on that. We actually, government or whatever, give any chance for women before they are entering the job. Even they are entering informal job, but having a significant position on the total household income. That's what we need to improve our understanding. If not, I think our labor market analysis objectively only looking any formal job as a important things, which can be seen a lot of people understanding about labor market only for, like in the developed countries. In the developed countries, characterized by the formalization of the market, because everybody engaged as employment, as workers, as wage workers. Not similar in Indonesia, where the majority, I think counting still 50-50, people who are engaged is non-formal. So we need to improve our understanding in providing the existing condition now. That is my understanding. If not, it goes by time and the quality of job is not improved, particularly in agriculture, in trading sectors. The two sectors I think is very need to be improved. That is my understanding.
Okay, good. Well, if you still have any of you have a question, you can address that question directly after this discussion. Okay. So now we move on. Thank you very much, Pak Elfindri, for the presentation. Well, we give applause for the last. Okay, so we move to Pak Arief. Pak Arief will present his paper co-authored with Andi Samuel and Irlandrum. The title of the paper is The Long-Run Evolution of Inequality in Indonesia from 1990 up to 2012. Please, Pak Arief.
Okay, thank you, Martin. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Martin, for someone come to this seminar. They are really keen to have discussion, because we have to go through many process to come here. We have to go through security and it must be. You are very much keen to discuss it. So okay, this is the joint work of me, Andy Summer from King's College, London, and then Ilan is here. So he's one of the researchers in Unpad. So basically, this presentation that doesn't have many technical issues. Not technical, it is not too technical, but we're just trying to give consistent long-run estimate of Gini coefficient as well as other inequality measure from 1990 to 2012, and then we were able to do this because we have a complete set of household survey data, SUSENAS, complete set from 1990 annually to 2012, thanks to CEDS project. So we are able to secure this complete set of SUSENAS. So we will be able to consistently measure the inequality. And as a bonus, also we try to explore some immediate and underlying causes, but this is just explorations, not deep study, just exploring, and then it's open to discussion. And then perhaps after this seminar, the list will be added. Okay, so why inequality matter? So, and in addition to normative issues, so I think inequality matter because inequality is correlated negatively with social cohesion. So I like this picture. This picture is not coming from an economist; it's from social scientist called Wilkinson. So he has a book called Spirit Level, and he created an index of health and social problems, which consists of various indicators like expectancy, literacy, infant mortality, homicide, and you mentioned you have obesity today, and then you plot it to income inequality, and you can see a very clear correlations between income inequality in all those sort of social problems. So inequality is bad, and that's from this social cohesion perspective. But from efficiency perspective, there is also reasons why we think that inequality is important. Because there is a study by Summer, one of our co-authors, said that if the current trend on inequality continue, then it could delay, because Indonesia just because of the business as usual, basically by a decade will get rid of the extreme poverty in a decade. But if current trend on inequality continue, that could delay that outcome. So for Indonesia specifically, the inequality, the current trend can be a bad thing for our progress in poverty reduction. The second one is not necessarily for the Indonesian case. There are more and more coming empirical evidence that suggests that high or rising inequality has negative effect on the growth itself, or most recently the length of growth spells. The length of growth spell is how sustained your growth, how your growth is, how long you will continue maintain high growth. So that's growth spell, and the higher the inequality, that length of growth, sustained growth is reduced. That's present. So, for example, this is interesting. The paper by Cornea into Oxford saying that rising inequality can assist growth. Yes, in the so-called Cornea curve, but only up to a Gini value of 0.3. Above 0.45 or 45, inequality can increase growth. So that's another example. And there are also other quote that I'd like to share from Rafi Kanbu. Rafi Kanbu is one of the most well-known inequality or development economists from Cornell. He said that growth is a plus for poverty reduction and inequality is a minus. So that's the reason, the motivations of why we need to know more. Okay, now I will go directly to the result. So this is the result of our calculation, and we have the Indonesian urban, rural, and BPS. The one in box is BPS. BPS actually doesn't have annual every year data. So we plot the BPS Gini coefficient with hours, and then find some interesting finding. First is before 2009, there are our calculation is a little bit different than BPS, but after 2009 is exactly match what BPS measures. And the reason actually we found is there in BPS website. Because in the BPS website said that the Gini coefficient measure before 2009, they are using in such a slightly different method. They are using group data. Group data means, so someone who calculates Gini coefficient get the group data from someone else, like for example 10 design or 10 whatever. Then they calculate, they draw the Lorentz curve and calculate the Gini coefficient from the group data. So they don't direct individual level data. So it's inaccurate. But after 2009, they revised the method, so they just use individual also level data. And this explains why after 2009 we can get exactly the number that published by the statistics. So in regard to this, so we found that there are some slight trend of increasing over the last 20 years, but the most recent years from 2002 after the Asian financial crisis to 2012, and you can see clearly there's an increasing trend. And we record 0.41 in 2011 and 2012. And actually in urban areas already above 0.42. So there's a rising trend, particularly for the last 10 years in the era of reformasi. And as a result of that, this is a picture, my favorite pictures. I always do this everywhere. This is the data that has the Gini coefficient as much as possible with years that is not too far from each other, and then we divide into 4 zones. So the 4 zones: low income and high quality, high income, high inequality, low income, low inequality, high income, low inequality. You can see that this is the ideal group. We have high income and low inequality, and you can see this is either the Scandinavian countries or for some former Soviet Union countries, their inequalities. So that's our goal, actually. It's something ideal. But there are other countries here too, low income, low inequality. Ethiopian country, they are very unequal. Yeah? They are inequality but low income. So merata miskinnya di daerah sini. Nah, Indonesia is actually is in this region. The threshold is median. Threshold is median. So Indonesia is actually in this zone. So in 2091 is here, and then for 10 years to 21, it has improved a bit, go down, but the last 10 years go up, and then we jump classes, so we become in a country with low income and high inequality. But there are some notes. Actually, this is not purely comparable because some countries use expenditure, some countries use income. But it is interesting because there are some data in World Income and Equality Database that record certain years where Indonesia has Gini coefficient measured by expenditure as well as income. So I use that information to make an average the difference. What will have been if Indonesia used income, not expenditure and quality? And it turned out that we just add 0.4 to that. So if we use income, then actually my guesstimate is that Indonesian Gini coefficient is 0.46. And if we go back to the literature we have mentioned, 0.45 is the threshold of inequality that can impede growth. So actually, we are already in the danger zone. So our inequality may have impeded growth already. Okay, so this is the Java and then Java story and urban rural. What I want to say here is this trend happen not only nationally, but if you go everywhere, you will find racial inequality everywhere. So it's not in certain region only, but everywhere. You go everywhere, you find racial inequality everywhere. In rural area, in urban area, in Java, in all regions, all over field. So it's a uniformly happening across Indonesia. So it's uniform. And also there is, I also try to. This picture is an interesting story. Why? Because this is the profits data. This is the district data. This is the initial level of inequality in the year 2002. 20%. And the vertical axis is the annualized change in percentage of inequality for the next 10 years, from 2002 to 2012. Yeah? So, and if you plot this and then you regress this, you will find a statistically negative coefficient, which means that we experience convergence. Meaning what? Meaning that if you start at initial lower level of inequality, your inequality will rise faster. If you start with higher level of inequality, your growth of inequality will grow slower. Meaning that everyone are competing, rushing toward more inequality. Everyone trying to be more unequal faster. The initial faster. So everyone at the end will become unequal, very highly unequal, if this continues. So this adds to the severity of our problems, because this convergence. If broad convergence, good. Yeah. Broad convergence, good. Yeah. But inequality convergence, if you are aiming at the higher, that's not good. Yeah. Okay. And this is expenditure share by income growth in Indonesia. You can see this is just the reflections, just another mirror of the story. So you can see that the 20% higher, 20% richest increasing its share in the economic pie, and the 40% poorest reduction its share in the economic pie. So this is actually just another different side of the story. But what I want to say here is, if you see the movement of the middle class, they are not much dynamic. They are just a bit stable. So the dynamic is at the top and bottom. So people might say that, oh, the richest get the share of the poorest. Well, you have ground to say that if you see this picture. And this is interesting too, because in rural area, what happened in rural area is quite interesting. Share, because before there is an intersection point in the year 2007, where before 2007. The share of the 40% middle class is still higher than the share of the 20% richest. Yeah. But there is a milestone in 2007 where when the 20% richest share exceed the 40% middle class, which is already happening in urban areas as well. In rural area, there is a milestone in 2007 where the 20% already exceed the share of the 40%. So and there is a tendency also that 20% is lowest. Okay, so the increase in the 20% is at the cost of the reduction of the 40%. Okay, and this is another measure, which is ratio of mean expenditure of 10% richest to the 10% poorest. So if the number is 13, it means that the expenditure per capita of the 10% is 30 times. Yeah, on average, the expenditure per capita of the 10% lowest. And you can see that the trend is even more obvious if you are using this indicator. So the increasing trend is more obvious if you use this indicator. So it's a sign that the dynamic is between the top and the bottom. Okay, now I'm talking about regional inequality, because some people always say that may be the case that the tendency of the increasing inequality is because of contributed to, greatly by the interregional inequality. So I also calculated also the index of interregional inequality. This is STL index, the most common one, but among province and among districts. And my conclusion is that there is no clear or obvious sign that there is a consistent upward trend. So I can say that, well, interregional inequality in Indonesia is perhaps bad, yes, but there is no trend of increasing. So just stuck there. So the implication of what we may conclude from this is, if there is any increasing trend in inequality, it might not have been because of the increasing gap between regions, something else. And this is consistent with the story previously, which say that the inequality is in fact happening everywhere. So inequality happens everywhere. So this also consistently. So, and we can also confirm with this. Because if you calculate the generalized entropy measure of inequality, we can actually decompose how much is the inequality contributed by within region inequality and how much is contributed by between regions inequality. So, and this graph say that because the number is big, from 80% to 100%, which means that majority of the inequality in Indonesia is contributed by within region inequality, not between region inequality, and the share is increasing. It means that this, the between region inequality only contribute a little bit, yeah, to the inequality in Indonesia. Okay, that's the story about trend and that we have in the paper. Now exploring the sorry, this is not the cost.
The price.
Cost. Exploring the cost of recent change in inequality. So there are many hypotheses. Yeah? If you read, some says that this is a global phenomenon, but I disagree. Why I disagree? Because it's not happening everywhere. In Latin America, the trend is opposite. In Latin America, the inequality actually declining, and in Asian countries, not all, only less than 50% of Asian countries experienced increase in inequality for the last 10 years. But IDB has another point. Yes, only a few countries experience rising inequality, but big countries, China, India, Asia. So that's big countries. So it means in terms of population, more than 50% of the population in Asian countries experiencing change in inequality. But in terms of number of countries, actually it's not. So I still think that the cost of inequality in Indonesia is made in Indonesia, not imported from abroad. So otherwise I don't have research, right? So okay, so what is the first? So the first is I'm going to show you. It is the cost. We can decompose the cost into the immediate cost and underlying cost. The immediate cost is obvious. This is the immediate cost. The pattern of growth. This is the growth incidence curve between those two periods. So this is the period before the reformation, and this is the period after the reformation. And as you can see, the pattern is changing. So it means that the growth that happened more recently in the reformation era will be more income inequalizing because the slope is higher. The higher the slope, the more inequalizing the growth. Because this is the poorest, this is the richest. Yeah? But the slope, but there are two stories that can come up from this picture. First, the one that I said before. Three actually, yeah, three. So across the two periods from 1990 to 2012, actually Indonesia has never experienced proper growth. Never. Both periods is not proper growth because proper growth the slope will be negative. Yeah. So never been any proper growth. That's first conclusion. The second conclusion is the recent period is more income inequality. The third conclusion from this picture is you look at this part, you see that the growth of the poor during old time in zaman Soeharto itu, yeah, is higher than the growth of the poor more recently. So this explains why the rate of the poverty reduction in Indonesia is slowing down. Right? Not a long time ago, it's very fast, right? But now it's slowing down because the growth rate of consumption of the poorest 40% slower now because this is below this. Okay. So this is the immediate cost. Okay, but of course this is just immediate. What is the underlying cost? Well, there are many hypotheses that I will pick some only. First is some people say that commodity price happen at the same time inequality is rising in Indonesia. This is the commodity price, the index of commodity price, and this is the Gini. And then if you plot it together, it's this is very it's close to each other. But of course, similar trend does not imply causation. Right? but this could be a sign too. So why the story? Why commodity price is good in inequality? Because commodity price in Indonesia is exported. This is export not to crop. This is export crops or natural resource. Like for some cocoa and then palm oil, things like that. The price increased recently, and then the benefit from that is not equally shared. Yeah? So those who own land, they will get more benefit rather than the landless farmer. And if it is the commodity boom in terms of natural resource or extractive sector, those sectors are highly capital intensive. So the boom in the wood market will be absorbed more by the capitalists. So it, of course, then it will affect the inequality there. But there are this disagreement with that hypothesis. Why? Because if that happens, it means that inequality will rise only in area where you have those sectors, like in Kalimantan, Papua, or Sumatra, certain Sumatran area. But in fact, that's not what happened. Everywhere the same. So it's not. People say that it's not. There is my other paper tried to look at specific of these issues. There are other paper, perhaps in other seminar we can discuss it. But basically, because to disentangle the cause and effect, basically in economics you need to have a model. So we have a model that can try to disentangle the effect of commodity price on equality. So we use that model. It's a CG model, and it says that actually the commodity price is not affecting the crop and the crops are the estate or crop part. That's not affecting much inequality because what? Because they are also benefit laborers. But if you shock the commodity price in extractive sectors, they deeply increase inequality. So if commodity price is risen, the paper say that yes, if it's about the extractive sector, but not about perkebunan. The second hypothesis is about the labor market, and I feel very much strongly with this hypothesis. So if you ask me to pick which one you think the most, I would say that you believe that what is the most important or what is the probability of being true. I think this is the one. Labor market inequality. So this is I borrow this from another paper, more from my colleague Purna Gunawan, another study project paper, would say that the access to labor market. This is the access to labor market in cities. The access to formal labor market. This is in cities. It seems to be stable, but if you decompose those into 20% poorest and the 20% richest, you can see that the richest, the access to formal sector increase a bit more than the average, but the access to formal sector of labor market of the 20% poorest declines significantly. So, and this is the gap. So the gap of access to formal labor market in Indonesia increased recently. Why is that? There is another paper too, because there are big issues, big in the literatures. Yeah? And one of them is the labor market regulation itself. Ya demo-demo itu kan, demo buruh, salah satunya yang mengeluarkan. Dan ini juga, this is interesting too. This is, I got it from BPS, this is the real wage in agriculture sector, in villages. Yeah? I found this very disturbing. I found this is very disturbing because if you have growth, economic growth, if you have development, I don't expect something like this to happen. I don't expect something like this to happen. But this happened. Yeah? Real wage decline in rural areas. In urban area, sometimes even nominal wage average decline in spite of increased UMR. Yeah? some common people doesn't believe me and doesn't get the intuition, but I said this is very simple because the OMR only applied to 20% members. So if you increase the OMR, yes, so those who will benefit is those who are very lucky. Those who can still get the job because of with the increased OMR, yes, but the other rest, to group, which is will be laid off and informal will get the negative externalities. So the average will go down. And the theory behind this is because in the zaman enak dulu, zaman Soeharto, itu people from village can go migrant to cities, then find formal jobs, so their life will be better. But in the era of reformasi, people from village, they want to get a better livelihood to cities, they don't find jobs. So they come back to the village and add to the labor supply in the village. So it drives down the wage. So the supply in rural area increase, so it breaks down, and it's confirmed with the paper, the recent paper by Bios Forum, by Chris Manning and Devanto Pratomo, to say that in the era of Orde Baru, people who go to cities, they can get better livelihood. But if the urbanization happened in the 2000s, year 2000 from here, no, people go to cities. It's not necessarily that you can get better livelihood. So I think so something wrong with the labor market in Indonesia that contribute to the increasing inequality. Okay, I skip this. Another hypothesis that mentioned by many people is the rice price. So Indonesia since 2004, Indonesia start implementing limiting import of rice. So we are protected from the rice market, or from the fluctuation in the world market. But at the cost of increasing domestic price. So Indonesia, this is real, not nominal, real. So the real price of rice since 2004 to 2005, because of the policy, has increased quite significantly, and then stable toward higher. So, because rice is very important for the poor, so people think that this may contribute to the rising inequality in Indonesia in the year 2004. And this is another of my favorite stories. So the reason why we have increasing inequality recently is actually because of something related to fiscal policies. So let me come back to this. My wild hypothesis. This is the year 2005. The year 2004 to 2005. There is a spike in inequality, right? Gini coefficient jump, and then the thing that people remember during that time is subsidi harga BBM naikin. And then people then jump into conclusion that because of the fuel prices increase, then inequality increase. That's the first thing they come up to their mind. I said that's wrong, totally wrong. Why? Because this is recorded in March 2005, but so the October 2005 is the increase in harga BBM. But this number is recorded in March 2005. So there's no way increase in price of BBM contributed to the increase in inequality here. So there's no way, because there's no causation, because it happened after. So why is the reason of this? So my hypothesis is, it is because the price of oil increased in the world markets at that time very, very high. And that makes the government have to subsidize oil. So there's a fiscal space, the limiting fiscal space. So the government has to subsidize the rising world oil price. So the money has to be spent on subsidy, and those people who benefit from the subsidy is not the poor, the rich. So that's why the inequality happened. That's my hypothesis. So when after that, the government reduce the subsidy and give the compensation to the poor, then into housing, inequality term. So that's my story. So the fluctuations of the Gini coefficient might have been correlated with that policies. But subsidy is the culprit. So the higher you subsidize oil, then the higher inequality. And this is the casual. This is casual because the data is not too many. This is casual time series analysis that I did. So after you did all this time series decay flow test and everything, and then I come to the conclusion that every allocation of subsidy, fuel subsidy by 1%, the share of the 20% richest increased by 0.2% significant. So there is some relation, some early indication of relationship between subsidy spending and inequality. And my last hypothesis is inequality of opportunity. This is more long run. This picture I also borrow from other papers of my colleague. So this is schooling years. This is actually gap between 20% richest and 20% poorest. This is the gap. So for example, the gap between 20% richest and 20% poorest for schooling years is 4. For example, if it's 4, it means that there are 4 years difference, 4 years of schooling difference between 20% richest and 20% poorest. So the gap is stable, if not improving. I think it's stable. But the most recently there is a bit of spike. So most recently you get more bigger gap. That's for schooling years. For higher education, we already checked several times the data. And this has happened in the last 5 years of the last decade. So the gap between education enrollment rate, higher education enrollment rate between the 24% richest and 20% poorest jumped for the last 10 years. And I think that makes sense. Why? Because if you are very rich, most probably you will spend on higher education. Higher education is the most. And this is indicator of health. So what we have only clean water, and this is very obvious. So the access to clean water as a representation of health, the gap is increasing. This is the gap. The gap between the percentage and the increasing. So there is a tendency of increasing inequality of opportunity in Indonesia for the last 10 years that may explain the rising inequality in expenditure income. So conclusion. Okay, let me restate again. So there are few. First is inequality in Indonesia has risen quite significantly over 2 decades. However, the rise in inequality is much more visible in most recent years in the era of political reform and democratization. I'm not implying anything, I'm just saying it, the era of political reform and democratization. Because some people doesn't like it. Some people say that I'm for Orde Baru. I said no. It's not taboo to say Orde Baru, some Orde Baru element are better. I think it's not taboo because if you say it's taboo, it's part of fundamentalism. I always say. So, and the magnitude of the rise in inequality is what's spectacular, particularly the dissatisfaction. And rising inequality is evident across region, profit as well as district, also across urban rural industry. It happens everywhere. It's a national phenomenon. It's not specific to certain regions. And also there is a tendency of convergence. Every region are racing, berlomba-lomba untuk menjadi semakin timpang. Kalau dia mulai dari awal, dia akan lebih cepat naik timpangnya. Kalau dia mulai sedikit, dia lebih sedikit pelan. Jadi berlomba-lomba, racing toward inequality. And some hypotheses are explored. Some of them are pattern of work, multiple outcome, fiscal policy, and inequality. But of course, this is only exploration, so we need further research for this. If we want to pick one of them, I think this would be in a separate papers. I think that's conclude my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Pak Arief, for the presentation. Now I open questions, discussions, comments, critics. Please, I believe. Yes, Lydia. If Lydia doesn't want, then I will come with my question. So please, Lydia.
It's an interesting presentation. I took notes of several things, but maybe a few ones. That means BPS has been for many years underestimating the Gini coefficient.
I'm not sure it's estimating or underestimating.
But it seems like it's generally below their group method is generally below the national Indonesia if you take each data.
But I think intuitively yes too, because if you're grouping, right?
Yeah, so you already have a preconceived notion who this group members are. So that means the policy for many years is biased because they think they are underestimating Gini coefficient.
That's very good point.
Also, I think it's really. I mean, even if it's very small, 2 points, 3 points, but this is already
for Gini, the gap is big.
Yeah, the gap is big. So the policy for many years, decades, is biased already. So that's really.
I may add to that because not only because of that, but also because we are using expenditure too, right?
Exactly. It's very.
So what we see on the street, what we see on the street, like this, what we see on the street, is not really reflected in the historical point. Yeah, I agree. But the point of the points taken about the implications of the measurement of the BPS.
Yeah. That's one. And then second one about commodity booms. So maybe, I didn't take a look clearly at the table, but maybe the linkage, you can find closer linkage if you say correlate between commodity boom now and then 1 or 2 years ahead, because I don't think the impact is right away, because you need to have some lag of time until there is impact. But my hypothesis is it contributes a lot, but maybe within a year or 2 years, then maybe you can see more direct linkage. I'm not sure about the fiscal angle of how you explain if it's a cost. Maybe if you look at the spending, well, it's not pro-poor basically, but what is a pro-poor spending? It's I don't know, but I think that I don't really understand the fiscal angle of this. I think maybe more on the expenditure, like government expenditure, as if you are looking for sort of causes of inequality. Expenditure is biased towards non-poor rather than
let me
more on infrastructure side, maybe.
Let me give some remarks on the last point. So basically, actually, what I mean is from the expenditure side, meaning that if you don't see the change, not the dynamic, but the static point of view, you can see that only 50 trillion rupiah, and roughly 40 trillion rupiah is spent towards social spending compared to 230 trillion rupiah or almost 300 trillion rupiah for subsidy. And you can see that if you compare, but also related to revenue cycle a little bit, because in Indonesia the PPh 21 in 2011, I only remember the number only in 2011. The PPh 21, which is the rich actually pay, is 65 trillion rupiah. But the subsidi BBM is 150 trillion. So I think in Indonesia we are the only country where the rich net receive money from the government. So that's what I mean by the fiscal angle. But of course, the static viewpoint is not explaining the movement. Yeah. So that's why I try to find the correlations between subsidi BBM and inequality. So the intuition is because if you increase the fuel subsidy, then the beneficiary is the top 10%. Why I said top 10%? I think very obvious top 10% because those people who own the car are top 10%. So top 10% get benefit at the cost of the money that would have been spent on social spending to the poor, and then they will tend to invest in equality. So that's the political side. But that's the first point. But in regard to the general social benefit incidents, I think we have to go to the district level because the spending on this issue, on these members, on this education, health, clean water, that's basically the domain of the regional government, local government. So we want to look at the benefit incident of spending. We cannot see the central government. We have to see the district. So we have experience in that with the Global Development Network project, which is basically exactly what we did for the case of West Java. So we try to analyze the benefit incidents of the three sectors of spending: education, health, and water sector. And we found exactly like that. For the money that's spent in West Java, at least in our case, the share is not proper. But that's only the case for West Java. I'm not sure whether I think it may have been the same within the region. So when I talk about this to Bapenas, to Bapeda, Bapeda always said, yes, but we cannot do anything.
So this data is for West Java?
No, this is for
national.
For national. But there are other research which actually basically do the benefit incident analysis for certain sector. Our GDN project would say that, and that's what Bapena said. Yes, because we don't have a political power to control the spending of the local government, but inequality is caused by those spending. So I think the further research is first to confirm that what happened and to what extent this contribute to Gini rising, and of course what is how to improve the policy in our context of political setting, which is more difficult. So decentralization, because it has to involve the rearrangement, decision power, or improving the quality of democratization that happened in the region. So the budget will be fixed to reflect the performance. So that's the.
Other questions, please.
Can you? I mean, you've identified. Sorry, I'm Taufik from the World Bank. Can you comment maybe a little bit on the relative magnitude of these drivers that you've identified in determining inequality? Because I mean that has obvious policy implications, right? Where should we prioritize? Should we prioritize opportunities? Can we prioritize? Do we prioritize spending? Do we prioritize, safety nets for price booms and for rice prices, or stabilize rice prices? So have you done any work into that?
I think this is a very hard question, by the way. But if we are talking about very long run trend, like 10 years or 15 years, I believe that this is the most important. We are looking at. Okay. But if you are looking more in the medium term, I think labor also is. No, I'm not sure. But yeah, both labor market and inequality opportunity. But I'm tempted to include labor market opportunity. I mean formal labor market opportunity as part of the inequality opportunity.
Right.
So I say that inequality opportunity is the most important factors. So if this is the cause, so this is among others cause. So I think this is the most important. The opportunity, including is the opportunity to access high earning labor market.
We still have times for about 10 minutes before 4. So please, if anybody wants to come up with the comments, questions for Arief, yes, please.
Okay,
My name is Arief. It's a very interesting presentation. I have some comments about several statements. But you say that first inequality in rural area. And you say that there are more exacerbation of unskilled labor in rural areas. But according to BPS survey, we just know that there are 5 millions of farmers lost in the rural area. So, what's the connection of your finding with this defect? We have lost 5 million of farmers.
5 million a year, not a year. Yes.
From the 10 years.
From the 10 years.
From the census year. From the census year.
Okay, as the first. And the second, maybe there are interesting result that you say that the higher the BBM allocation subsidized, it's make inequality more rise. Maybe it's difficult to accept to our economic logic. Maybe you, I have read a number of several people that say inequality in energy is not just about inequality of consumption, but it's inequality of climate effect. Because the more the poor people is affected more by the climate effect. They got more floods. Several aspects of climate effect. Can maybe could be a nice explanation by this BBM effect in this world. Not just that, because there's a lack. I agree with there's a lack that poor people will adjust the consumption is BBM.
Okay, thank you. So you have 2 points. Let me respond to that. 5 million farmer less.
Yeah.
How do you make it consistent? Okay, so there. First, 5 million, if you count it as 10 years change, is not much. That's first point. Second point is the reduction in the railway is not only an effect of increasing supply, it can be increasing demand. Reduction in demand. So as you know, in 10 years, the share of agriculture sector in Indonesia is declining. Okay, so declining share. So actually the share of agriculture declining means that the relative demand of agriculture sector shrink. So that reduces the demand for labor. So it's not necessarily the case that there is absolute increase in farmer, but relative. I mean, you have to compare it with the baseline. So the reduction in the share of the agriculture sector combined. So if the reduction is proportional with the reduction in supply, the real wage won't fall in like that. But if the reduction in demand is slow, then the increase in relative supply, so it's still good. So you know what I mean? So 5 million. So increase. So I say that the absolute numbers of farm supply in labor in farmer is increasing. That's wrong. Yes, I'm wrong. I didn't really mean that. I didn't really mean that there is an absolute number, but relative number compared to business as usual. Compared to business. So because you have to take into account also the shrinking share of the agriculture sector. So that's my first comment. The second one, I think it's quite intuitive though. I mean, if you know that 80% of the fuel subsidy is enjoyed by the rich. See, if I have a car, I always talk about this with my colleagues. I always make a joke about this. So, because my colleague, my friend, he was in the UI, I won't say the name.
Not me, I don't have a car.
Yeah. So he has two cars. He has two cars. One is Avanza and the other one is Kijang. So he really again fuel subsidy. So he used Pertamax. But because he has to go very far from Salemba to somewhere, so at the end he cannot resist. So he switched. So okay, now I'm not going to use Pertamax. I'm going to use Premium. So by doing that, he saved 1 million a month. So and I said that to him, oh look, a poverty incident in Indonesia is 300,000 a month. So you make Indonesia, three Indonesian people poor by doing that. I said, oh, that's no problem. 3 million Indonesian, 3 Indonesian. But I said, no, not 3 Indonesian, 1 million Indonesian. Why am I Indonesian? Because there are many, right? So every 1 rupiah make everyone fall to poverty. So there are 1 million. There can be 1 million people in Indonesia becoming poor because of what we did. So because they are 1 rupiah each, because it's very continuous, right? No. But anyway, that's a joke. So I think that if the rich get the benefit, so he has other extra money to spend on other things. So now I can buy more cigarettes, because I only pay from me. So my expenditures will increase because of the subsidy. So even ceteris paribus, there's nothing happen to the poor. Yeah, inequality will rise. Even if there's nothing happen to the poor. But on top of that, if because of the government doing that, you reduce the opportunity of that money to be spent on the poor, so that even will create more gap. So that's the intuition why I think that if you increase the fuel subsidy, it will have a direct implication on Gini Commission. So that's the intuition that I put forward.
Last question.
Actually, it occurred to me also that you can look at spending on the public spending on agricultural sector. Because reduction in real wage is also can be contributed by the fact that there is less spending on capital.
Yes.
So so that might be so that might be something that can be looked into,
Sure.
especially for inequality level areas.
Agreed.
But according to your school percentage, higher school percentage of school years, I think it's not be a problem, because you say about 2010 there is a fiscal policy.
Yes.
But the main challenge for us now is the quality, not for the quantitative indicator of the education. Maybe not schooling years, not higher education percentage, but the quality of
not the amount of years, but the PISA score.
The PISA score, the quality of education.
The mathematics
scores. Because government spend many huge of spending in boss and every sector in school.
Because that matter, quality, the inequality of the quality. The inequality of the quality.
Well, before I close, I have one simple question actually, Pak. I want to know about the poorest provinces in Indonesia. For example, is Nusa Tenggara? Because I know East Nusa Tenggara is really poor, and most likely there is nothing there. Okay, the natural resources they are not endowed with the high natural resources. And then if taking account with your conclusion that province are competing into inequality. So what happened with I I still do not understand or how to explain it that the poor one, because you said that in the Ethiopia staying stagnant into that quadrant, low income, low inequality. Well, take into account, put it in for East Nusa Tenggara, should be, or maybe if it is one simple province and then you can neglect that I don't know. Well, that's I think the final one. If you do not have we can discuss it.
You want to accept the fact it's difficult to accept the fact that very poor actually
Exactly.
invest in equality.
Exactly.
The same as what others.
Exactly.
That's the biggest criticism.
Okay.
That's the biggest because I want to.
Okay.
So I have to think.
What you are saying is that you don't know how the rich can get richer in the poor area.
Exactly.
How
Because
can the rich get richer
let's say if there is nobody, let's say take the extreme.
But capital, you can earn you can earn returns on capital anywhere, not only in NTT. They can bring their capital elsewhere.
Yes.
So,
But
That is
who?
the reason people come to NTT. There are no resources, then there's an incentive for people to put their capital in
yeah, that's why the poor gets poorer.
Yeah.
But the rich has the ability
But the one
to
who
find
put,
other.
but the one who brings the capital, it's not the resident of NTT province.
Okay, so where do we have a look at this picture? If you see the province, all province, without exception, are in the positive quadrant. But there are many one, and some province, I'm not sure which one, I have to check. There are two pieces very low, increase low. But if you see the district one, there are also some district where the equality is actually declining, below the zero.
Yeah.
But majority of it increase. And so what I mean is, we should check
Okay.
if the poorest, if that poorest region that you mentioned is actually the one is at the back bottom.
Okay. Yeah, we will check that.
Yes, yes. So it's not happening everywhere 100%.
Okay. So basically it's a statistical because we take the mean number.
Except for profits happen everywhere. But at least the magnitude, there are variations in magnitude.
Okay. Okay, good. Let's give applause to Pak Arief. Thank you very much. And thank you very much to everybody who is coming today. And then I give it back to Lydia. Please, Lydia.
I think the next meeting will be in Andalas, hosted by Universitas Andalas, and it will be on 16 January.
16th of January.
I think it's Monday. So if anybody is going to Padang, please feel free to
Please let me
join.
know. Please let me know.
It will be the last one for the 2013.
Yes.
Okay, Pak Arief.
Thank you. Gracias.
Good.